What's good, y'all, and welcome to another vid. It is happening again. We're getting another fusion. After our last fusion being Crowder back in, I think it's January 1999, we are now finally getting another fusion. Obviously, it's not 1999. It's, I don't know, is it a year at this point? Let me know down below if you know the exact date. But it's been quite a while ever since we got our last fusion. And now we're looking at Carosa. Carosa, a cultist mage that's been on the Forerunner server longer than any of us have been playing this game for, which is kind of crazy to think about, but that's just the state of Carosa. And the real question is she any good, right? Because one of the main concerns and the reasons why we never got Carosa was before her rework, she was so atrociously bad that the developers intentionally withheld her from us on the global server because she would have just disappointed us. So we're going to take a look at Carosa, we're going to be playing around with her, and we're going to be trying to see if she can bring any spirit to your account, if she can actually help you anywhere, and that is what we're going to be looking at today. So let's speedrun Carosa's kit, then already talk a bit about my predictions of what she's going to be able to do, and then we're going to go into a bit more testing to give you some visual clarification, some good idea of how good she truly is. First off, she has terrible attack. She has terrible attack, she has attack like she was a Dolores or a Diao, but trust me, there's no inspiration in her kit, so that overall already is probably the worst thing about her. But yeah, so her talent states that for every 6 basic attacks, she and her grimoire summon the Arcane Realm, which for 5 seconds is going to grant a 20% magic vulnerability to units while also doing AoE damage. Keep in mind her basic attack is low, so the AoE damage won't do much. Overall, she's just going to be able to provide a bunch of magic vulnerability. That's her talent in a nutshell. The A1 is just single target magic damage, or the basic attack. Overflowing energy is when summoning the Arcane Realm through the talent. In the Arcane Stanch, which she has in her ultimate, she has a 50% chance to summon a extra Arcane Realm, so she does a bit more damage, but vulnerability obviously doesn't stack. Then energy conversion. After the hero or grimoire summons the Arcane Realm, you increase the hero's attack by 7% permanently, up to 5 times. Again, her basic attack is super low, so this is basically nothing. Ultimate is she enters the Arcane Stance for one of her passives. Enters the Arcane Stance, attack plus 60%. Once again, her attack is pretty much nothing, so this is almost nothing. When dealing a basic attack, her grimoire will also attack too. Here you get an idea of what this Arcane Realm looks like. It's not a bubble like Iona, it's just a pentagram grimoire type attack, and that's a field where they take extra damage. This effect lasts for 15 seconds. Now, I intentionally skipped this one because this is what makes her truly valuable for you, no matter where you are in the game, as long as you can spare a spot on your team. And that is because Esoteric Wisdom increases all mages damage by a flat 6% that only takes effect when Carosa's in the team. So you have a pretty much A1 version of what the Unnamables are granting, which is, you know what I'm talking about, right? The Ancient Blood passive, where you have normally a 4% team members damage increase, and then with the A2 you have a 6% damage increase. There is no reason to assume that those two buffs don't stack together. So if you can afford to bring her and a unnameable unit at the same time, then all of a sudden you're already getting a 10 or a 12% damage increase, depending on, yeah, here some loot for those of you interested. But yeah, let's go to the fight. So for those of you that, if you can manage it, let's see. So for example, we take Cyrus as the Lord. All of a sudden we have a space open, and then into that space you could be putting in Carosa. Now you would be getting the 4 or 6% from Imrit, and then the 6% from Carosa. It's pretty much free damage, and it should help you clear gear rate 1. That's the main part where Carosa is going to be useful. She's not going to really get any skill ups, because this doesn't need a skill up. I don't think you want to awaken her. The attack speed's kind of whack. The attack is kind of whack. If the hero summons the Arcane Ram in the Arcane stance, increases the stance duration, is alright. And then the damage per second is increased to 80%, so not by 80%. Also feels kind of whack. So this is the most important part right here. Esoteric Wisdom. If you can find a space on your team. So 8-man content if you have a lot you're using. Simple, right? 10-man content, you don't want her because she's trash. So if it's 10-man content, leave her out. 8-man content means you have 2 free spots. Those are most of the time reserved by a lot that you don't place down. But if you have a lot that you're using on the field, like Nastia, like Cyrus, Solkadin, anybody else, that obviously opens up that free spot for someone like Carosa. So that is the situation of things. So now to give you an idea of what she truly does, and me personally, this is kind of where I see her. We're going to be putting her against Iona in a, you could say, DPS race, just so you can see her as her damage capabilities. Obviously, keep in mind, she is going to be providing the vulnerabilities to Iona, so Iona does more damage, but Iona is also going to provide the slows to Carosa, so Carosa does more damage. So let's quickly prepare a team, go in and see how it goes. Alright, yeah, so here we are, 121, we have a Epic Lot and a Bizu, we have equivalent Sorbonne Arcana fully attack focused pieces on both Carosa and on Iona. What this should also tell you is look at her BP. She is in full gear and she has 70k BP as a legendary, which is kind of tank-like. Both of them do have a tier of Twilight. We have Elwyn for Rage, Hollow for Rage, Mary for Slows, and Diao for Perma Inspo. So let's just get into the fight. And yeah, this should give us a rather good enough idea of the damage capabilities of these heroes. Also look at the range of her. So she's more meant for kind of this Mary-ish spot on the outside, more of like a support role rather than a main damage role. But we are going to be putting her here. And for Iona, it doesn't truly make too much of a difference, but we're just gonna place it down there. Obviously go into the attack stance, and we can let the ultimates just go loose. I hope we just don't end up losing here, because that would be kind of embarrassing to an extent, and also at the least very unfortunate. We're going to be auto-triggering, or at least hopefully auto-triggering most of our stuff, but we'll also be single-triggering our Hollow. And yeah, let's just see how this whole shenanigan goes. You can see obviously Carosa can't reach while Iona can, but that's just an inherent disadvantage of Carosa, right? Nobody told her her range is meant to be 1 lower. That's not a real thing. You could be like, oh yeah, but Carosa didn't reach. Yeah, she couldn't. She couldn't, right? Same thing with Demi. How Demi isn't able to reach all the way over. So yeah, but I do think if a Arcane Ram gets placed in the middle, that extra magic damage should reach yeah, you can see how this is actually reaching everyone. So it's not that bad. As long as she places down her Arcane Ram, it really isn't all that bad. And I also think at the end of the day, this is a good example of how much easier to an extent Gear Rate 121 just has become. Obviously we're not through with the stage yet, but for now we were able to mostly clear all the waves with around 80% HP on a A0 Diao with an A5 Iona, normal Elwyn. We still have 2 spaces to place units down, and obviously we have a Carosa who could be replaced by any other damage dealing AoE mage, and then obviously an Iona. So yeah, I hope this also, I guess, puts a bit into perspective a bit of how much easier 121 has become. I still remember the days when the game first launched, and I tried 119 and got absolutely smacked to hell and back. At the time, for example, I didn't have a Dolores, and then Dolores did allow me to go and clear 19. But yeah, 21 at that time was still a very, very big hurdle. So I think we're going to be able to clear 21. I hope this gives us a somewhat conclusive result on the damage capabilities. My real issue with Carosa is why so low? Why base damage or base attack so low? If you're already giving her a rework, couldn't you have given her like, I don't know, 1,200 attack more? It didn't have to be anything crazy. Maybe something like 3,600. I know she stacks a lot with attack, and that would obviously then scale even crazier, but I don't know. I think anything like more than 2,400 could have been more than justified. Now she's kind of like a glorified cheerleader for your team. Huh? If you can afford to put her on your team, great. If you can't afford to put her on your team, she's not gonna do anything. Huh? She doesn't even need skill ups for the passives. So yeah, there's that. Let's look at stats. And you can see Iona is pretty much almost doubling her. So the problem I see with this is the fact that she's not meant to be a damage dealer. She's meant to be a support. She's meant to provide that vulnerability, though Mary just does it better. Mary also provides the vulnerability, and Mary does provide the freeze. She doesn't provide any kind of form of crowd control. So at the end of the day, what you're looking at is the fact that you have a support that is better left on the bench. And outside of that, I mean, she's good enough to clear 121. If you have Iona, if you have her, just put her in Sober Arcana. Yeet her at 121 and you're gonna succeed. Overall, she's a cheerleader, okay? She's a mage cheerleader that only finds use if you have a active lord, which most of the time is an ancient lord, or depending on the stage, I guess a Toreador. But yeah, if you're bringing mages, if it's mage-focused, AoE-focused content, if it's 8-man content, and if you can afford to bring her, she is the best cheerleader in the realm. Unfortunately, for example, you could also just bring an Ajax or a Imrit if you can't bring both of them, because then you need 2 spots. And that's because she only boosts mages, they boost everyone. Closing thoughts on Carosa? They could have done more with her. Honestly, they could have done more with her. At least give her like, again, 3,600, 4,000, 4,500 attack, or put in some form of, I don't know, slow, freeze, crowd control into her kit. Like this, she's a bench warmer. And that, I guess it's not necessarily too bad. If you can afford her, she's literally free damage for Gear Rate 1. And with that, we see each other in the next one. Peace.